Welcome to the Homeschool Together podcast. Where one working mom and a stay-at-home dad help you navigate the nuts and bolts of the growing and dynamic world of homeschooling.
With a focus on early learners, like me.
All the ins and outs of building and maintaining your homeschool life.
Homeschool.
Find out tips and tricks to make things like this easier.
I'm reading.
And ultimately, enjoy educating your kids. And what's that last thing?
Have fun together. Did I do good, Daddy?
Yeah, you did, sweetie. Good job. Homeschooling is the pursuit of knowing, learning, and exploring the world without the pressures of school. Life and learning become one. Julie Bogart. Welcome to the Homeschool Together podcast. Today is going to be a motivational day.
We're going to make you feel better.
We're going to make you feel good. Real good. We're talking about cheesy romance, Fabio cover.
Oh,
good.
No, not that kind of good.
Yeah, that type of good. No? Okay.
I don't think so.
We will be talking about imposter syndrome. It is a common issue that most people have when they get into something new, something they have been told has a lot of barriers, that there's a knowledge barrier, that there's some special secret sauce that is needed to get into something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether you're a writer or, dare I say, podcasters
Yeah.
or Instagrammers.
Yeah.
Might I add, you should follow us on Instagram at Homeschool Together Podcast and our Facebook group at Homeschool Together Podcast.
Nicely done.
Imposter syndrome. We're going to talk today about eliminating imposter syndrome in 7 easy steps.
Yeah, I think it's really easy to look at Pinterest and be like, oh my God, I'm not that going to be, how could I possibly be that kind of homeschooler? Especially if you look at homeschool spaces.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, my goodness, you look at these just beautifully decorated rooms and be like,
my
my house has never looked like that.
You get it on Pinterest. I get it on YouTube. I get these YouTube moms, and it's terrifying.
Well, right, because you're like, I can't be that kind of homeschooler. No. I mean, is that
I'm just blown away they can get that type of lighting in their average homeschooling life. I was like,
I know.
How do they get all this natural lighting?
Some of these rooms look like they're straight out of, Pottery Barn. I mean, they're just amazing.
Yeah, I'll make sure to tell Ariel to post the pictures on Instagram of our homeschool room.
No, I mean, we have to clean it first, right?
I know we will. It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's what happens when you have the convergence of a hurricane of a 4.5-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Right. I mean, I think if there aren't any Cheerios on the floor in the picture, we're not really being real enough.
The very, very sad dog outside of our office door that's looking at us right now is our Poochie vacuum cleaner for
right.
this.
Every morning before the kids go into homeschool, we send her in on a round of cleaning up Cheerios and Honey Smacks off the floor. So,
all right,
let's just be real.
Let's get some motivation going.
All right.
7 steps. We've gone through all the nonsense podcasts, the terms, the methods, the requirements, the regulations. Mm-hmm. They all look like at the end of Indiana Jones when they open the Ark. Now we're going to build ourselves back up.
I hope they don't look that scary.
No, hopefully it's not that bad. Keep your eyes closed, Indy.
Yeah, I mean, we just want everybody to know, now kind of some of the technical stuff, and now it's time to...
It's the fun. This is the fun.
This is the fun. It's time to start, and I know that everybody feels overwhelmed at first. I see these posts every day of people that are overwhelmed, and they see moms and dads doing some crazy, incredible homeschooling and think, oh my God, I can't be one of these
I think
people.
they're just overwhelmed in life, right? They have potentially job issues. They have potential, health-related issues. We're living in the middle of the pandemic.
Right,
there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of fear.
Stress and overwhelm. And then, you worry, do I have all my stuff together to be that kind of homeschooler? Is that what I need to do to be a successful homeschooler? And so we just want to take you through a few steps to get you started.
Okay. The first step, breathe
and believe.
Yeah, very, very Tony Robbins here.
Right. I mean, so we want to say, you can do this. You are smart enough. You are brave enough. You are patient enough. You are organized.
Darn people like you.
And you will be a wonderful educator to your children. So if you don't believe it yet, do like the rest of us. Just fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it. I love that line.
So just breathe. Take a deep breath. Let's all breathe. and believe that you're going to be a great educator for your kids.
Well, it's because every homeschooler had to start somewhere,
Right.
right?
We all started in that exact same spot.
I mean, everybody takes, most of us have preschoolers or kindergartners or first graders. It wasn't long ago where we watched those kids take their first steps.
Right. And nobody wants to screw up their kids, right? And
Yeah.
we, every homeschooler started exactly where you are. And we occasionally revert back there to, I don't know if I'm doing this right. So just believe it. And when you don't believe it, fake it until you believe it again.
Well, and, we've spent a lot of years talking about homeschooling, We've spent a lot of time talking about what we wanted to do, what we wanted to accomplish. And, roughly 2 years ago, we started that journey. So it's not like we've been, our kids are in high school and we're talking about what it was like 15 years ago when we started homeschooling. From us to you, we started just a very short time ago.
Yeah.
And the relative, timeline of our kids' education, and we were able to do it. It was scary at first. I remember that first day. Ariel built this beautiful binder. All the books were in baskets. She straight up Pinterested me, and I was terrified.
I left for work and said, good luck.
Good luck, honey. And I was like, oh, God, I'm going to get blown away here. And it wasn't that bad.
Right. I think you've got to get into it. You don't have to have all the answers right at this moment. So depending on the state you live in, you don't even have to have all the answers by the start of school.
Yeah.
Take the time that you need to prepare. Don't stress yourself out by rushing into anything. Your kids are going to be just fine if you take a little bit of time and figure out the right path for you.
All right. They're convinced. They're going to homeschool.
You're convinced.
We want you to find that inspiration.
Right. I mean, a lot of folks
Step two, find the inspiration.
Yeah, a lot of folks were thrust into homeschooling. This wasn't what your plan was. So now we're making the best of the situation that we're in. And, we hope that you love homeschooling and you find that it ends up being the perfect thing for your family, even though that wasn't what you were planning on, if that's your story.
Well, and think about it. We're living in very tough times.
Mm-hmm.
But imagine if this was 15 years ago.
Oof.
Maybe we would have had blogs. There was no social media.
Not the way it is now, anyway.
YouTube was I think, two guys in a basement type of thing.
Yeah.
You have the ability now to have all this information and all these people just right at your fingertips, whether it's on Instagram, Homeschool Together Podcast, on Facebook, Homeschool Together Podcast Group. You have all this information just sitting there waiting for you on YouTube. You can follow, other moms or other dads.
There's Instagram.
Yeah.
It's great.
I'm on Reddit a lot. There's huge, enormous homeschooling Reddit subreddit there. Just unbelievable amount of information, and people are ready to help you and share with you. So it's like,
right,
the inspiration is everywhere and it's free.
Right. And we would just say, find inspiration in other homeschoolers that have similar ages to your kids, just to start, right? And look them up on Instagram, look at blogs, watch YouTube. Find some folks that you want to emulate. And that's how we started. We looked and saw, blogs by some great homeschoolers. And we're like, oh, that looks amazing. That's the kind of family we want to have. That's the kind of homeschoolers we want to be. So first, find some inspiration. And this is going to help you too to refine what kind of method you want to use. Step
3, find the method.
Right. So based on the inspiration that you found, what do you want to use for your homeschooling? Are you more of a literature-based curriculum? That's what we do. So maybe it's Charlotte Mason, Socratic. Maybe you don't mind which way you start with, and that's kind of us. We have both. We're incorporating both in our homeschool. But your kid loves books, like our kid, so that's where we started. Or your kid hates books, and so maybe you want to go with a nature-based, very kinesthetic curriculum. When you find your inspiration, then you'll find the method that might work best for you. Don't worry, this doesn't have to be your final answer, but you need to have somewhere to start, because when we move to step 4, choosing your curriculum, you're going to need to know, narrow it down at least in what method or methods interest you before you go in to start shopping for curriculum.
Step 4, choose your curriculum.
That's right.
So where are they going to find that? How are they going to find that? What are you going to do? There are Facebook groups out there. Right. There are YouTube channels. There are reviews. There are blogs. We have chosen a number of very simple curriculums, cheap curriculums. Not simple, but more like easy to get into it. Easy to get into it via the price. We're not going to drop like $900 on a curriculum.
Yeah, these curriculums that we chose are kind of lower price.
Not that those $900 curriculums are bad or anything.
No, they're not. But our recommendation would be, at least when you're starting out, if you're not sure about the method that you're choosing, you're not sure what's going to work best for your kiddo, try to pick a curriculum that's kind of a lower price point, either or, free or low entry, so that you can decide if this doesn't work for you. You don't feel like, gosh, I'm locked into this because I spent $400 on this curriculum. So definitely have options. We're going to have a whole podcast about finding curriculum. So, stay tuned for that. But this is going to be the next step after you've narrowed down your methods. Now it's time to start looking into some curriculum.
Step 5, plan your schedule.
Right. So
this is the when, this is the timing.
Right. You figured out what you want to teach, and maybe you're not going to do a curriculum. Maybe you're going to do unit studies or something else. We actually talked about before the podcast an interesting idea. If you were totally not sure what method to use, planning your own unit studies and using different methods. So, for these 2 weeks, we're going to do Charlotte Mason. And for these 2 weeks, we're going to do unschooling. And maybe you just try some things on for size before you actually make a commitment, which would be kind of cool. Anyways,
kind of the Russell Stover's chocolate box. Try them all, see which one works.
Right. The one with the cream filling is the right one.
It's terrible.
I prefer the peanut butter. So once you figure out what you're going to do, whether it's a curriculum or you're going to make your own thing up or, whatever you're going to do, you figure out when you're going to do that. Do your kids work best in the morning? Do you all sleep in and they're best in the afternoon? Are you going to do it on the weekends when you're both home from work? Whichever works best.
Sleep in.
Yeah, if you can.
5:45.
If you're one of those lucky people. So figure out which time of the day works for you, or which days of the week. Oh, I'm going to only do it these 3 days. I'm going to do it only on the weekends, whatever.
And know your schedule can change. Like, for example, when we first started, we had the little one, and she was a wee little one. We had to figure out, how can I homeschool my 4.5-year-old with an angry 7-month-old in my lap.
Well, yeah, that was partway through our journey. I mean, we started this. We just had our older child while I was still pregnant with the younger, and that was much easier. But right, you're going to have to adapt as your kids get older and nap times change and things. But, make a plan, at least start it. You can always adapt it again if it doesn't work out well for you. And not just the time of day, but you also have to figure out, are you going to be year-round homeschoolers? I mean, that's what we do. We do take some breaks, but in general, we homeschool year-round. Are you going to follow the public school schedule so that you can be aligned with siblings, or, so you're ready to drop your kid back into public school when this pandemic business is over, God willing, someday. So, figure out when you're gonna do your teaching and what your days and months are going to look like.
Okay. Step 6, find a community and friends.
Right. So what you're going to teach.
Earlier we had inspiration, but now we're going to find your community and your friends.
Right. Yeah. Now is when you have to I feel like it's like the inspiration, you're looking around at all the fraternities or sororities. Now it's time to pledge. You've decided, you've chosen your curriculum, and now it's time or the style that you're going to do. And now it's time to find some other folks. So one of the best things to do is join the Facebook group for the curriculum that you choose. It's a terrific way to ask questions and get advice. Also, they're going to be digital at this point, virtual co-ops, but, eventually in-person co-ops in your area with kids that are in similar ages, that are like-minded. Maybe you're, outside nature people all the time. Maybe you're folks that are indoor game schoolers. I mean, so, find a group of like-minded folks, because homeschooling really is a community. We're not meant to do this in isolation. That's not the goal. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult during these times, but do your best to find some other folks that can give you support and whom you can support too.
And finally, step 7, which is my favorite, just start. Yeah,
don't suffer from, analysis paralysis. At some point, you have to say, my ducks are as aligned as they're going to get. It may not be perfect, but you'll have to begin somewhere.
Yeah, and as a story, Ariels' Instagram was a good example of that. She was kind of a little paralysis by analysis. How do I do this?
Right. I didn't know how to start the podcast Instagram. What should I post? All these pictures are so beautiful, and I just have regular pictures.
How do we start a podcast?
Right. We've never podcasted before. Please be kind.
Just do it. Right. Just do it.
Right. I think podcasting, homeschooling, the same. You're going to learn the most. You're going to learn the way you want to do it, the kind of person you're going to be, by just starting. If you never start, you're just never going to get off the ground. Yeah. Feel free to start and make mistakes, and then just change it later. It's not going to ruin anybody.
Yeah, it's so important to actually dive into it, make those mistakes, make those errors. I mean, not every day is going to be a great day.
Right.
Some days are going to be amazing. Some days are going to be just absolute disasters, and you're just going to have to scrap it and go for a nice hike. Right. I mean,
yeah. And that's the beauty, by the way,
the
of what
beauty
we're
of
doing is you
homeschooling,
can say, you know what? Not today, math. It's just not today. We're not going to fight through this.
Yeah. I like good example yesterday. It wasn't working. Like it was on my side. Like I just didn't feel it. I didn't feel it that day. I said, you know what? I'm going to pull something off of the stack that's a little bit later in the week. That's a little bit more fun outdoors, gets us outside. We were outside doing chalk and painting and drawing shapes and doing numbers on the sidewalk because I just didn't feel like sitting there and reading another Berenstein Bears book or doing math manipulatives. I didn't feel it. So
well, right, you have to be really creative quite a bit, right? You're trying to constantly make things interesting and fun for her, and sometimes we all wear out a little bit and we need to change something up.
Yeah, so just start. Don't worry about an ideal situation. It's not always going to be pretty. But we know you can do it. We know you can do it because we did it. And all these other people have done it. And all these other families are doing it. And they're all having a great... You don't need to be special.
You don't need to be a super academic type. I mean, you love your kids. You want the best for your kids. You're gonna connect with your children as you teach them. We have found a deeper level of connection with our daughter through teaching her. And you will too. You just got to get started.
Well said. Thanks for joining us today. We will have some links in the show notes. We will also have some posts on our Facebook page, on our Facebook group, Homeschool Together Podcast, and also check us out on Instagram, Homeschool Together Podcast there, where we're going to get to our favorite part of the show.
Right, our favorite segment of This Week and Every Week, as they say on my favorite podcast, Pop Culture Happy Hour.
So what is it?
So I wanted to talk, we started this episode with the infamous Julie Bogart, and I'd love to talk about her again. So it's her book, The Brave Learner. I'm not a big nonfiction book reader. I mean, Matt's smiling. He reads tons of nonfiction books. He just finished, like a 1,100 page tome. But for me, I don't read nonfiction like this. And it was recommended that, I think one of my Facebook groups said, what's the best homeschool book you've ever read? And it was like, hands down, The Brave Learner, over and over and over. So I checked it out, and it's bringing magic into your homeschool. I think that's roughly the subtitle of the book. This book is so inspiring. If you are nervous about starting, just pick up this book and read it. She's so wonderful in that she includes not only her successes, but her failures, how she regrouped, what she learned, how you can have a magical and happy homeschooling relationship with your kid. It's all told through practical stories with real examples. One of the things that came out of Julie's book was the art caddy, right? So it was having art available for your kid all the time. My
beloved art caddy. Yes, I love it.
Right. That was our garage sale craft storage caddy that we filled with all kinds of art supplies.
It's so beautiful. I have all the art supplies. The 4-year-old will leave the table. Alex Honnold, our little 1-year-old, will start climbing up the chair, and I have just enough time to put it all back into the caddy and take it away by the time she gets to the top.
Right. Julie recommends putting it on the table so your learner can do art at any time, and that would work if you didn't have a climbing 1-year-old. So, good for those of you that don't. But so it's wonderful because she doesn't just say, it's not all theory. She actually gives you practical examples of things that you can do that are great ideas. This is the kind of book that I feel like I'm going to reference throughout my children's homeschooling lives.
A book that you'll come back to.
I'm absolutely going to come back to, because it has, I'm seeing like applications for it now, and then I'm seeing applications in 5 years and 10 years. I just read a chapter before we started this podcast. I'm rereading the book because it's just that good, about teenagers and how to connect with them. So I feel like it has something for everyone at every level. You cannot go wrong. Go over to Amazon. There's a link in the show notes. Pick up The Brave Learner by Julie Bogart. Thanks so much for joining us today and making us a part of your homeschool journey. Please engage with us on social media. Join our Homeschool Together podcast group on Facebook and find us at Homeschool Together Podcast on Instagram. We'd love to hear your feedback, questions, and recommendations. Until next time.
Happy homeschooling!